Kyle Buffum has nothing but time.
I have a 35 to life sentence.
Locked up 7 years ago in New Hampshire State Prison.
When I first came to prison, I had a lot of self-reflecting to do and how my life had gotten here.
He landed here after masterminding a near-fatal stabbing of a woman in Bear Brook State Park. Kyle was found guilty in 2016 of accomplice to attempted murder. He was 24 at the time of the crime. Sentenced to a life confined by these brick walls, Kyle searched for purpose.
I knew that I had spent a lot of my life taking and just being a not-so-great person. So when I got here, I just looked for any opportunity that I could to get involved with something more positive, more pro-social, more productive.
He found it in Open Sky, a first-of-its-kind, skills-based acting program for the incarcerated.
True West by Sam Shepard.
It's sort of a mental health program because it actually deals with, empathic response and learning how to be sensitive enough to play someone that you're not.
That thing there before you do the change into candlelight, right? Like, I'm not the one to worry about, like something starts to tip.
Derek Lucci founded Open Sky. After UNH, he attended the prestigious Yale School of Drama. His resume includes theater and television, guest starring on shows like Law and Order. He also taught acting at NYU.
Keep sticking a pin. I'm not bothering you, am I? Yeah, you're bothering me a great deal, right? And you're advocating for, like, this is what happens.
Inmates transformed the prison gym into a stage for a 90-minute production of True West, a classic American play about a power struggle between two estranged brothers. Kyle portrays a successful screenwriter, and Daryl Buffano, a drifter and petty thief. The brothers come to blows when they collaborate on a screenplay.
I've got too much to deal with to be worrying about...
Oh, you ain't got to worry about me. I've been doing all right without you.
Kyle and Daryl are acting novices. They needed to peel away layers before they could embody their characters.
They dismantled something inside themselves. They took something down that was in the way of their being able to honestly confront something.
You're sort of psychoanalyzing yourself. Some things are hard to look at.
Daryl is in for second-degree murder. He killed his best friend after a night of drinking and drugs.
I work really hard to separate myself from my crime. I can't. There's no way I can say I'm sorry enough. There's no way I can atone enough.
He's been in prison for 15 years and won't get out for at least another 13.
Mom took off for Alaska, huh?
After months of rehearsals, fellow inmates filled the seats. 12 performances later, these guys gained far more than acting chops.
I think that getting involved with something like this can help people stumble across maybe a purpose or a better way to live their life.
It didn't take much of a pitch to convince the Department of Corrections Commissioner Helen Hanks. With her background in behavioral health, she saw the innovative program's transformative possibilities.
We've incorporated humanities into a correctional facility because it makes sense that people came here broken, and we need to have people relearn who they are, and acting is a way to do that.
Derek teamed up with former Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court, John Broderick, whose son served time at the prison and suffered from mental illness.
I've visited that place twice a week for 3 years, so I know what that's like. We can either put them in there, lock them away, pretend they don't exist, and not encourage them to change, and then we can release them, hoping for a miracle, or we can use the time we have with them to see how many of them are willing to change. And that's what Jerry's program does.
That includes dealing with anger, hostility, and violence as portrayed in True West.
I can give you money if you need money.
Don't you say that to me! Don't you ever say that to me!
The brothers fight constantly, pushing and shoving and knocking each other down. An interesting choice in plays considering the setting. But Dr. Jeff Fetter, chief medical officer at the State Psychiatric Hospital, saw a performance and approves.
You know, the play has something to say about violence. The play has something to say about conflict. And it's something different and surprising compared to what they're used to thinking about in the day-to-day life of a prison.
Dr. Fetter noticed big changes in some of the inmates he knew from his 5 years as the prison psychiatric physician.
What I saw with some of these folks was that they had found a purpose and they'd found a sense of belonging.
Even the audience, the general inmate population, benefits. Just by engaging, they're creating a community and shifting the culture.
Do I feel like all the work is done? No, but do I see that progress has been made, like a step has been made, that something has softened? Yeah.
The way we treat people who are incarcerated has to be more about who we are than about who they are. And to give a program that raises up the human potential of somebody who has perhaps squandered most of it up till now, that's what we should be doing.
Kind of nice for you, bunk whole place yourself?
Yeah, it's great.